I went up and I pled guilty. And I was given a misdemeanor charge on my record, and I had to pay over $400 in fines. And I thought, okay, I broke the law, so I didn't have a problem with that. And I figured, pay my fine and it'd be over with. I mean, I still have a misdemeanor on my record, but it would be done and I can move on with my life.
Sometime in the spring of 2000, came home from work and we were going through the mail, and I brought to my daughter in the room what I thought was, her award, financial aid award. And actually it was stating her application was incomplete. She had neglected to answer question number 28 about any type of drug offense.
My heart started beating fast. I was like, oh my God, like a drug conviction. And my mom's like, just, answer no. And at that point I had to tell her, I don't know if I can answer no. I still was thinking that it didn't apply to me. I was thinking, how can me getting caught with a pipe affect my financial aid? I started in the spring of 2000, and it was my first semester, and I was thinking, how am I going to pay for this? I'm already in college. I worked at a flower shop down the street making minimum wage, and I couldn't see any way to do it. So I told my mom, I'll just have to take a year off. And my mom was just very firm on the fact that, no, you were not going to delay your education because of this, We'll do whatever we have to do. And she ended up taking a loan against the house, and we just made it work.
As a result of having to take out an equity line of credit, I had to start working overtime a couple hours each day to be able to make that payment. But that didn't matter to me because it was very important for me, for my daughter to go to college. My generation, my brothers and I, are the first in our family to go to college. It's really important to our family. My little cousins, when they see us going to school, they're excited and they can't wait to go to college.
No, thank you.
Most people do admit to trying marijuana at one point in their life. Some parents think, my child would never, ever do that. This would never happen to my child. Well, my mom probably said the same thing.
She went through 12 years of school, always on the honor roll. She had never even brought home any kind of note from the teacher telling me she had ever given them any problems.
We need to make it clear that we're tired of seeing people go to prison for nonviolent crimes. We're tired of our prisons being overcrowded because of these bad policies. We're tired of students getting denied access to education because of past mistakes.
You parents out there are thinking, well, this doesn't affect me because I have the resources to pay for their education. But just think for one moment, if your 18 or 19-year-old son or daughter had to spend even one weekend in jail, are you willing to take the chance that they're going to come out the way they went in? You have to realize by reading the papers every day what happens there. Unfortunately, our system does not protect you once you get in there. They have their own system in there, and your child can come out beaten, raped, or maybe not even come out.
Colleges probably didn't care too much whether I was ranked #1 or #2 at the end of high school, but I think that it was really inspirational for me to actually then be valedictorian. I went to Penn State and then ended up studying a lot. I didn't even drink alcohol the first year of college, which has made me probably the only person at Penn State to not drink because I was studying so hard. I was studying physics, I was studying math, and getting straight A's in all my classes. And I was ranked at the top of my class for physics and as well as math. I was getting lots of scholarships. I was on a full scholarship, actually. I was on the track to being an astronaut. I wanted to be in science because I was good at it, but I didn't want to be bored. I didn't want to be sitting in a lab somewhere. I wanted to do science and have it be exciting, and I thought Being an astronaut would be like the most exciting thing you could possibly do with a science background. And then it was at the end of my junior year that I was arrested for growing my own marijuana in my apartment right off of campus. And so my 3 felony convictions ended up causing me to serve exactly 3 months in the county jail. I was pretty ashamed of being in there. And over time, that shame kind of disappeared and it turned into anger as I thought, wow, if they're willing to put me in jail, like straight A's in physics and math, then how many other people are going to jail across the country for marijuana? I have 3 felony convictions still to this day, and I was pushed off the astronaut track. Of course, the federal government isn't going to put a triple felon in space and have them represent the US government. Not only that, I wouldn't even be able to get a low-level job at NASA. My prison experience was not nearly as bad as some. There are people who really actually have life-changing experiences in jail, or even life-ending experiences in jail. For instance, there's someone by the name of Jonathan Magby who was a quadriplegic living in Washington, D.C., and he was arrested for marijuana, which he smoked because he said it helped reduce the pain, and also it made him happier. And so the judge sentenced him to 10 days in D.C. jail. Now, Jonathan, being a quadriplegic, needed to be hooked up to a respirator because he found it hard to breathe. The D.C. jails, like other jails, aren't exactly accomplished medical facilities, and so they didn't actually give him the proper equipment he needed, and he ended up dying. And that was the judge teaching him a lesson. Another story about a judge teaching a lesson. There was a student at the University of Florida in Gainesville, and he was caught selling a small amount of marijuana to someone. The judge said, you know, I'm going to sentence you to jail. I'm going to teach you a lesson that selling marijuana on or near campus is not going to be tolerated. And so he was sentenced to 4 weekends in jail. And on the first weekend, the people running the jail put him in the same cell with someone who was in there for violent crimes. And that first weekend, this college student who was only, I think, 19 years old, was repeatedly anally raped by his cellmate.